Welcome back, everybody. Today we're stepping back in time, going all the way back to the early 17th century,
Hmm.
to the very beginnings
Hmm.
of the idea of America as we know it.
Right.
We're diving deep into the story of Jamestown, the
Jamestown.
very first permanent English settlement in North America.
Yes.
And this time we are focusing on a man whose life, well, it reads like an adventure novel,
Oh, yeah.
John Smith.
It really does. I mean, you've got daring escapes, you've got political intrigue,
A little romance, maybe?
even a bit of romance thrown in there. It's a story of survival against incredible odds.
Let me just picture this.
Yeah.
You just stepped off a ship
Right.
after 5 grueling months at sea,
5 months.
and you find yourself in
Yeah.
a swampy, disease-ridden land.
Yeah.
Thousands of miles from home, surrounded by people you don't understand.
Totally different cultures. Yeah.
That's exactly what John Smith and the other colonists found themselves in
Right.
when they landed in Virginia in 1607.
1607.
And to make things even more complicated, Smith arrived in chains, accused of mutiny during the voyage.
No way.
Yeah, he was supposed to be a leader of the colony,
Yeah.
but he basically arrived as a prisoner.
That's wild. I mean, just think about that for a second. This
Yeah.
guy is supposed to be a leader,
Yeah.
and he shows up in chains, accused of mutiny, and yet
Yeah.
it really speaks volumes about Smith's character that he was able to overcome that initial setback
Totally.
and actually emerge as a pivotal figure in Jamestown's survival.
He had to have some serious resilience to bounce back from that.
Absolutely. And remember, these colonists, they were ill-prepared for the realities of the New World.
Yeah.
They faced disease, they faced starvation, and they had this constant conflict with the native Powhatan Confederacy.
Right. It's like they had this idea in their heads of the new world.
Right.
They were expecting gold and riches.
Easy riches, yeah.
But the reality was far from that.
Oh, absolutely. They landed in what we now call Virginia during a pretty severe drought.
Oh, wow.
The land was really difficult to cultivate, and their supplies dwindled rapidly.
That's tough.
So they were completely reliant on the Powhatan for food,
I see.
which created this very complex and very tense relationship.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah?
So that's where Smith's leadership really comes in.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was a soldier, he was an explorer, he was known for being tough and resourceful.
Yeah, he knew how to get things done,
Exactly.
and he understood discipline, and he understood the importance of self-reliance.
Right.
You know, he instituted that famous no work, no food policy.
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one.
It was harsh, but it really underscored the dire circumstances they were facing.
They had to survive.
Exactly. Survival was at stake, and Smith also recognized that they needed to engage with the Powhatan,
Okay.
and not just through force, but through diplomacy and trade.
So he wasn't just a soldier.
No, he was also a skilled negotiator.
He had to be.
He absolutely had to be. The Powhatan Confederacy was a powerful force led by Paramount Chief Powhatan.
Right.
And Smith realized that establishing a relationship with them was crucial for the colony's survival.
Makes sense.
So he learned their language, he learned their customs, and even negotiated trade agreements to secure food and supplies.
It's incredible that he was able to navigate such a complex cultural landscape while also dealing with all the internal struggles of the colony.
It definitely wasn't easy, let me tell you. He faced opposition from within the colony itself.
Really?
Oh, yeah, people who resented his authority or disagreed with his methods.
Like leading any group, I guess.
Yeah, always going to have those dissenting voices.
Yeah.
But despite those challenges, Smith managed to keep the colony afloat during those crucial early years.
He sounds like a pretty effective leader.
He organized expeditions to explore and map the surrounding areas, searching for valuable resources, establishing trade routes.
Makes sense.
He oversaw the construction of fortifications to protect the settlement from attack.
Smart.
Yeah, he was really trying to
Yeah.
build a foundation for the colony.
And of course, we can't talk about John Smith without mentioning Pocahontas.
Uh-huh.
It's a story that's been romanticized over the years.
Oh, yeah.
But it's still such a fascinating part of Jamestown's history.
Definitely.
So what's the real story there?
Well, the story of Smith's capture by Chief Powhatan
Yeah.
and his supposed rescue by Pocahontas, the chief's daughter,
Yeah.
it's almost legendary.
It is?
But the historical accounts are a little less clear-cut.
You mean it might not have been as dramatic as the Disney movie?
Well, let's look at the historical accounts.
Oh.
Smith himself wrote about the incident.
Okay.
And he claimed that he was about to be executed
Oh,
when Pocahontas threw herself over him and pleaded for his life.
wow.
But some historians question the accuracy of his account.
Oh, really?
Yeah, suggesting he may have embellished or misinterpreted the event.
Interesting.
It's possible that what Smith saw as a near execution was actually a ritual adoption ceremony
Mm.
intended to incorporate him into the tribe.
That is a very different interpretation.
It is right.
Right.
It makes you wonder how much of what we think we know about early American history is based on subjective accounts and interpretations.
That's a good point.
It is. But regardless of the exact details,
Okay.
the significance of this encounter between Smith and Pocahontas can't be denied.
It definitely marked a turning point in the relationship between the colonists and the Powhatan.
Absolutely. It opened up a channel of communication, however fragile, between these two very different cultures.
Right.
And it's a relationship that would continue to evolve in the years to come with both moments of cooperation and periods of conflict.
A very complex relationship for sure.
Absolutely.
So Smith is like walking this tightrope,
Right.
keeping the colonists in line
Yeah.
and trying to keep things somewhat stable with the Powhatan.
A delicate balancing act.
It is. What happens next?
Well, Jamestown's still struggling.
Still
They need more people, more resources, more everything.
makes sense.
And then in 1609, a fleet arrives from England,
Oh,
carrying hundreds of new colonists.
okay. You'd think that would be good news, right? More hands to help.
You would think so, wouldn't you?
I would.
But imagine you're Smith. You're barely keeping the existing colonists fed,
Right.
and suddenly you have hundreds more mouths to feed.
Yeah, that's going to cause some problems.
And many of these new arrivals are city folk completely unprepared for life in Jamestown.
So not only do they have to feed more people, but the people aren't even ready for the challenge.
Exactly. The colony's population nearly tripled overnight,
Wow.
exacerbating the existing food shortages and tensions.
And that's right around when Smith has that mysterious gunpowder incident.
Right. He's out on the river, a spark ignites, and boom!
What happened?
He's badly burned
Oh, no.
and nearly drowns.
Wow.
It's never been definitively determined if it was an accident or sabotage,
Oh, interesting.
but Smith himself suspected foul play.
So he's injured. He's possibly fearing for his life,
Yeah,
and he decides to return to England.
he does.
What happens to the colony without their tough love leader?
Things go downhill fast.
Oh, no.
The winter of 1609-1610 was known as the starving time,
A starving time.
and it was truly horrific.
Oh, wow.
Food ran out, disease spread, and the colonists were reduced to desperate measures.
How desperate.
Archaeological evidence has confirmed that they even resorted to cannibalism to survive.
Oh, gosh. That's awful.
It was a truly dark period in Jamestown's history.
It's a chilling reminder of just how close Jamestown came to complete collapse.
Absolutely. It's hard to imagine the desperation and despair those colonists must have felt.
I can't imagine.
The starving time was a stark contrast to the relative stability Smith had managed to maintain.
Yeah, huge difference.
So Smith leaves the colony, nearly perishes.
A bleak picture for sure.
It is. How does Jamestown ultimately survive and become the foundation for English settlement in America?
Yeah. How did he turn things around?
Well, it's a complex story, but it involves a surprising turn of events.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Remember Pocahontas?
Of course.
She re-enters the narrative in a dramatic way.
Okay, tell me more.
In 1613, she's kidnapped by the English
What?
and held hostage as a bargaining chip in negotiations with her father, Chief Powhatan. She's taken to Jamestown, where she meets John Rolfe,
John Rolfe.
an English tobacco planter.
Wait, tobacco, isn't that the crop that eventually saved Jamestown?
Exactly.
Oh.
Pocahontas, now known as Rebecca Rolfe, after converting to Christianity and marrying John Rolfe,
Wait.
played a key role in the development of the tobacco industry in Virginia.
So the woman who once symbolized peace between the colonists and the Powhatan
Right.
ends up inadvertently contributing to the very industry that would fuel English expansion into their lands.
It's a strange twist of fate, isn't it?
It really is.
Pocahontas' legacy is intertwined with both the promise of cooperation and the harsh realities of colonization.
Right.
Her story highlights the often tragic collision of cultures and the enduring impact of those early encounters.
What happened to her after she married Rolfe?
She traveled to England with him,
Oh, wow.
where she was presented to the court as a symbol of the potential for peaceful relations with the Native Americans.
It's interesting.
It was a carefully crafted image designed to promote investment in the Virginia colony.
It seems like the English were very aware of the power of perception
Absolutely.
and how it could influence their colonial ambitions.
The way they presented their interactions with the native populations was crucial in shaping public opinion back home
Right.
and attracting more settlers and resources to the New World.
It's interesting how Pocahontas, who began as a symbol of cultural exchange, became a pawn in this larger game of colonization.
Her story is a poignant reminder of the human cost of empire
Yeah.
and the complex legacies of those who were caught in the cross-currents of history.
What about John Smith?
Yeah.
He survives. The gunpowder incident, goes on to explore New England, even coins the name New England.
He does.
What's his ultimate fate?
Smith never returned to Jamestown, but he continued to advocate for colonization and wrote extensively about his experiences in the New World.
Really?
He died in England in 1631, a restless spirit who had left an indelible mark on early American history.
Wow, it's incredible to think about all this.
Yeah.
John Smith, Pocahontas, John Rolfe,
Real people.
real people
Yeah.
living through these crazy times,
Making history.
and their choices, their actions really shaped the course of history.
Absolutely. I mean, John Smith, ambitious, sometimes ruthless,
Yeah.
but the leader that kept the colony afloat.
Yeah.
Pocahontas, caught between two worlds,
Right.
a symbol of cultural exchange, but also the tragic consequences of colonization.
Right.
And then you have John Rolfe, who brought tobacco into the picture, transforming the Virginia colony, laying the groundwork for an industry that shaped the economy and society of the South
For centuries.
for centuries to come.
It's fascinating to think about tobacco,
Yeah. Yeah,
this plant native to the Americas
Right.
becomes this global commodity,
it does.
driving the English economy, fueling the demand for labor.
And ultimately leading to the transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, it's a sobering reminder of how interconnected history is.
It is.
How these seemingly separate events can have such far-reaching consequences.
Right. The story of Jamestown, it's not just about the founding of a colony.
It's about so much more.
It's about the beginnings of a nation.
Yeah,
The clash of cultures, the rise of global trade, and the lasting legacy of colonialism.
and it all starts with this small group of people struggling to survive in a completely unfamiliar land.
It really does. Their stories, full of hardship and resilience and ambition, offer this incredible glimpse into the human drama
Yeah.
that unfolded during those early years of American history.
Makes you wonder what they would think if they could see the nation that emerged from their struggles and sacrifices.
It does. I imagine they'd be both amazed and maybe a bit troubled
Yeah.
by the complexities of the world we live in today.
It has been an incredible journey exploring the story of Jamestown
It has.
and these remarkable individuals. So as we wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways you would like our listeners to consider?
I think it's important to remember that history is rarely black and white.
Yeah.
These were complex individuals operating in a really challenging and often brutal environment. Their motivations were multifaceted, and their actions had both intended and unintended consequences.
And we also have to recognize the perspectives of the native populations who were already here.
Absolutely crucial to understand this history from multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
Acknowledge the injustices that were inflicted and grapple with the complexities of the colonial encounter.
We've covered so much ground today, from John Smith's adventures
Oh, yeah.
to the tragic fate of Pocahontas
Right.
and the rise of the tobacco industry. But there's always more to learn.
Always, history is this continuous process of discovery and interpretation.
So true.
We encourage you to dig deeper into the story of Jamestown,
Yeah.
explore the primary sources, read the accounts of both the English colonists and the native peoples.
That's a great idea.
And as you do consider the questions we've raised today about leadership survival, the clash of cultures, and the lasting legacies of the past.
Because history isn't just about what happened centuries ago.
Right.
It's about understanding the forces that shaped our world and using that knowledge to build a more just and equitable future.
Well said.
It's been a pleasure having you on the show today.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Jamestown. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.